or. But on one plate, for example, where I had 30 penicillium culture colonies come up, I had one on the plate. So you can tell pretty straight away that, pretty easily that the room, although, yeah, okay, it's not a lab, but you don't grow 30 colonies from, exposing an agar plate for 30 seconds to put some sputum on and spread. So anyway, I move on. So I thought these could be the sporangia, these heads of, not the sporangia, the heads of Rhizopus. I've got some interesting images, but it's going to take me a while to get them all together. Now this is where we move into these other objects, where this is like a cornflake or scaled one, and it's breaking open, and sure enough, these gold discs and all this granule is associated with it. This, to my liking, is either an early development of one of those discs maybe, or this shape is in fact very similar to the head of a Rhizopus, if that's the spores being released. I'm not certain. But again, you're starting to get the scaling objects which I was coughing up. Here's some of the gold objects which I think are vacuoles, but this is very similar to Melinda Sart's images, and in fact I've got so many images now of these, and I think they are unfortunately part of the problem. Again, you've got the covering and the enormous range of things here. This larger element, I don't know what that is. It could be the beginning of one of these larger cysts you're about to see, or whether it's a parasite cyst or whatever, but it's I think that's forming or disintegrating, one of the two. Same sort of thing. Now close up, if this is the smooth covering, then it would seem underneath it these are here, and also these seem to be similar to the tetrads that I've seen very early on. However, again, you've got these elements which were originally smooth covered, and I thought, well, are these just vacuoles? But the more I've seen these, the more I've looked at them closely, and some later images you'll see soon, it appears that these may in fact be reproducing, whatever they are. Again, Melinda Sart has a similar object to this. Here are these gold discs. Again, here we've got the more, whether these are spores, whether they're eggs, whether they're a strange bacteria, or whether they're vacuoles, they do seem to be a part of these elements. And these elements are right through my body, and I cannot see anything like these on many samples. Occasionally you might see something in a when I'm searching for research to try to find out what should you be seeing, what shouldn't you be seeing. But unfortunately, because I'm so ill, then we know that something on... Oh, here we are. Here's Melinda Sart's. Now, there's Melinda Sart's. Now, here they are, and there's my ones back here somewhere. And so I should have put in some more crops there, but anyway, so here they are there. Here are these large elements, and you'd think, well, they're vacuoles. No, possibly not. Then again, and here, similar sort of elements, different sort of shapes, not necessarily pear-shaped, or like possibly this one, not necessarily circular. This one, very interesting. Again, possibly just vacuoles, but maybe not. But these also, these look like my green peas. They look very, very, very similar, and I'm hoping Melinda can send me more images. Of course, a water droplets on a slide can look like that too, of course. So I've got to do a lot more, verification and things, but I need someone to help me, basically, here in Melbourne. Now, this image really struck me. This is the first time I saw anything like that, which I'm coughing up all the time. And this image itself, it's a bit bright, so it's a bit hard to see detail, but that shape there really stuck out. And I'm hoping to hear back from Melinda with the images I've sent her. Now, this is in brain heart infusion. Now, if that's just a macrophage looking out for, reaching out for things, fine. But if people say that's not, if you look at that, that's not a macrophage in brain heart infusion, then that could be part of the infection. Or if it is a macrophage, then are all these things in fact the infection, or vacuoles? Again, these are the discs with, if they're not vacuoles, then they're elements that are infecting. Up here you can see some small ones beside this disc, and right through here there are small units, and here you've got a clear small green pea or spore, and it would appear budding. And I've got lots of images of that. That actual image I've got hundreds of times. Very small elements relatively, but budding. Or budding's the best word I can use. Now here at 1,000, here are what are essentially those what look like vacuoles in those circles at 1,000, and with an opening. Now, again, I'm a gardener, but when I first saw this, I thought, well, that must be a worm. Not the thing. That must be a worm, a nematode or something surrounding its eggs. That was the first thing as a gardener that I came to my mind. But of course, you'll all know much more than I do regarding microbiology and pathology for humans. I'm only learning, or trying to learn as best I can. But obviously, whatever's happening, if this is just part of a cell wall structure, whatever it may be, these various sized elements, which seem to have circles within circles, obviously maturing, and out they go. Here again, you've got this opening. This interests me here. I thought, well, maybe this is a male and a female, I don't know. Maybe, fertilising the eggs, I don't know. Microscopes, as you know, can be incredibly creative in your imagination, what you see. But again, whatever this is anyway, they are flowing out, and it would make sense that this is maturing, these are opening out, and of course if this large mass is formed by every single one of those, then I'm in trouble. Same sort of thing. There they are again, and yep, so I'll just have to hope and pray that some of you out there can see these. Here's something's a bit more like some of Melinda's, but again, this seems to be a material that's not so much full of vacuoles, but possibly elements, but I could be wrong. I was wrong once, it was someone else's fault. Here is an odd structure, and here also. I don't know whether these are simply larger forms of these loops of wet spaghetti, I don't know, but it's a mess. It's just a mess, and I'm coughing that up all day and night. Now again, here's my solid covering, and now we'll start to move towards, now this is a really important one, showing a key element of the structures ahead. Now this is what I call the tortoise shell structure, coming across here, up here, and back down to here. It would, this is missing. But this is one section, this is another section, and this would branch off to another section. Now, someone will probably know what this is, or understand it. I've coughed up pieces of this, and they look just like a root and a branched bit of hypha, or a hypha join. And so I've coughed up segments, but this one is one that's disintegrated, or in fact, sorry, this, well, based by this material in here, but it may be beginning to form. And if so, then coming up here, it's just full of these bacteria-like threads, which comes back to, they just may be coincidental that they're in there, of course. But this structure leads on, and you've got this more complex shell-like overlapping, interlacing network forming. Another example of some of this network forming on the edge of a cluster. This is probably one that's broken apart, and that's possibly degraded. Again, the gold discs, and again, one that's broken apart. Now this is really interesting also, because what I'm coughing up is so hard to get up. It's unbelievable. So this structure here, it just seems to be so intricately growing, and I can just imagine that stuck against my bronchioles like a paste, and it's no wonder I'm not getting this up. If this is a really viscous, sticky biofilm, and it's being made to this interwoven network of its structure, then yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm ill all day long, every day, all week. Very intricate. Now this is also very interesting too, because these much larger sort of semicircular elements here that are forming, obviously they're forming part of the whole structure. I've actually coughed these up again in segments. I've coughed up maybe that much of one, or maybe just one by itself. And I couldn't figure out what they were, but then when I found these one day, coughing it up, managed to loosen up enough in April 21. I inhale a lot of things. I'm using hydrogen peroxide and all sorts of things to try to break it up. And then this made sense as to why I can't get these things up and what these are a part of. So this is the real problem I've got. I'm not being treated by any specialist. One specialist out of a large number gave me one tablet of itraconazole at 200 milligrams. I said to him, my GP's already given me that, and it didn't work. And we took it up to 600 milligrams, and it didn't work. His reply to me was, well, I'm just giving you that. Take it for 28 days. If it doesn't work, stop taking it. I told him it didn't work. He didn't bother ringing about it. I said, can't you try intravenous? We've tried all the oral fungals. I don't like using them, he said. And that was that. See you later. Bye. Pay on the way out. So, I mean, it's a bit disappointing. When I had my gardening business, we had a nursery and gardening around and things when I was younger. A plant nursery with my sister. If people came in with a sick plant, I'd go to great lengths to make sure I knew what was wrong with it. Or if I couldn't figure it out, I'd go to their house and I'd have a look at it after work. I didn't charge them. I was just interested to know what it was, particularly if I didn't know what it was. I can't believe the lack of enthusiasm. Anyway, I digress while you're looking at these images. But here are more of these scaled being formed. I don't know the technical term, you people will. But in amongst them is one of these discs, which earlier on I mentioned about the loops seem to fall apart and fall apart and fall apart. Rototorula, I came across a research article on rototorula, and they certainly have these starch elements, these discs of starch. But again, here's part of the shell. It's obviously breaking apart. This one, again, I'm not certain about this one, but it's a part of another element. There's the same. That's the same element there as here, but just it's obviously either just forming or it's degrading. Now this is where we get into these elements, which are really quite spectacular too. This one obviously is coming apart. It's a scaled sort of covering. This is the material that's associated with them all the time. A lot of it's very granular looking eventually, but lots of these gold discs. Again, you've got this sort of scale-like, but lots of granular, gritty stuff. Gritty looking. Although when I do cough these things up, there are times I get either real slime or I get grit, sort of a grit. It's the best way to describe it. So this could be this stuff coming up. But anyway, they're forming these coverings, and that's what we end up with, a tortoise shell. Sort of, I'd call that a tortoise shell cyst, but I don't know what the proper technical term is. But of course I realise parasites can have these sorts of things, fungi can, and you people out there who know more about this than I ever will, know other options too. So we'll start going just through these, but there's, this was November 20. I'll come across these, over the last 3 years, they come and go, come and go, come and go. Much smoother, but again, always associated with this very granular stuff around it, and what I call the golden discs. But again, there's always this debris coming out of them, or surrounding them anyway. Different forms, different shapes, multiples. Same thing you can see again surrounding them as the debris. Now here's, of course, here's the edge is broken out, pushed out, and it's spilling out. So yep, that's in there too. Now when I first saw these, and I saw these what almost look like nematodes in there, strongyloides or something, I thought, oh well, maybe it is, but I've never seen any of these things move, so I gather they are not certainly strongyloides or anything, but but it could be it could be, as I say, the sloth of the nematodes. they're sleeping all the time, and they just reproduce in their sleep or something, I don't know. But again, there's that's just, of course, at 100 magnification, just to give you again some gauge of what we're looking at here. But there are some of the different shapes. This is January this year, January 21. January 21, and again, what emerges from them is this very dirty, granular looking stuff, gritty looking stuff. And it could be, this could be part of when I'm coughing up things that sometimes go a bit gritty in the throat when I'm trying to swallow it up. Swallow it down, it could be that, I don't know. Here's another one breaking apart, of course. Here's one with more of these gold discs, sort of clustering, but here's another one of the tortoise shell type cysts, another one coming apart. Here's one possibly just slightly smoother, or perhaps at a different growth stage, but possibly just a different type, and surrounded by these gold discs. Now, if there's a very simple explanation for these, then please email me. Say, oh yeah, they're really common, Chris. We see them everywhere. Everyone's got them in them. Olympic champions have them in them. But are they coughing? Do they have meningitis? That's my question. Because something in these images that you're looking at, along with others I've got, which I'll put up on another video, something's causing meningitis. So, so it'd be nice to know what it is. Here we are at 100 magnification, a clear, obvious, breaking cyst. This is just a group of these sort of almost disc starch sort of things, a bit of a closer. But yeah, difficult for me to say what these are because I'm a gardener. I don't see these on trees. Pick them at Christmas time or something. So again, same sort of structures, but the way these are formed in here, I just can't easily find on the internet what I'm looking for all the time, of course, because I'm not sure what they are. Again, here's one breaking apart, another shape, small cluster, again surrounded by the same gold discs and debris. I don't know whether these are forming or disintegrating. I'm not sure whether these are coming together, whether these filaments are actually the beginning of the forming of the shell, and then this is the beginning of a coating, or if it's in the reverse, but they're certainly possibly connected. Again, that may be just one in a different stage, one that's possibly emptied out, I gather, looking more transparent. Same thing here, same thing here. Just another one breaking apart. These are unusual for me. I haven't seen these on apricot trees, so again, I don't know whether these ripples together are just a structure. There was at one point I thought, well, are these tiny nematodes emerging, or are they just simply bacterial structures, or just part of the elemental structure of this particular, whatever it is. Again, you've got these finer filaments coming out of these clusters. Major sort of cluster with just lots of the green peas or spores. For change of pace, it's not uncommon for me to cough up a rather long filament. I've certainly cultured fusarium, or it could be acremonium, but I've certainly cultured fusarium with right angle phyllides on them and things, or certainly fusarium-like, or so it's a possibility. That was in, when was that? That was November 19. There's November 20, a year later. And there's another thread. Here you can certainly see some cross lines. I don't know whether it's just the microscope. They don't seem to be up here, so it might be just the microscope. Yeah, right angle phyllides would be a bit more prominent. But I've certainly cultured them. November 20 again, here's a long strand. May 21, and here we are again, this incredibly long. Now, I mean, I'm thinking, well, is that a worm? Is that a, unrecorded strange, the skinny worm? I don't know. Sputum, November 19. Now, I gather these are possibly just macrophages, just with arms reaching out, looking out for the infection that's all through my body. But if they don't look like macrophages, please let me know. I've got lots of images of these. When I first saw these, I thought, well, are these eggs hatching? These spore, which are beginning also to grow? Are they bacteria coming out? Or, of course, are they macrophages? But is this normal to see macrophages like this clumped? But I've got an enormous number of images of these, and if someone wants the rest of them, I'm happy to send them off. I can imagine those things coming down there being a macrophage, but I haven't got that skill, that level. I'm a gardener. November 1920. Again, is this a macrophage, or is this something that is germinating or growing? Again, is this a macrophage or something else? Macrophage or something else? Now this is interesting. Sputum January 21. Now this is a work in progress. So I've cultured this from sputum, and it's growing from these from the sputum, and I've got it in a lab, a private lab, $250 worth to get a test done because of the problem we have with the local labs at the moment. I haven't found a decent lab yet. So anyway, I'm coughing up hypha. Now this is wet samples. It's sample day 4. Other one was 2, I think. Oh no, that wasn't. That was January 7th. Okay, that was wet mount. That was straight out of the lung. So straight out of the lung onto the slide. And it's growing. Now they always say we never see any hypha, we never see any hypha, we never see any hypha. I don't see masses of hypha, but I certainly cough them up. Now the other thing is, of course, in the hypha, as those of you who would know, they're reproducing in the hypha structure, mycosome type reproduction. This is day 4, so sometimes I've got the sputum, I'm in a lot of pain. I put it on the table in whether it's May or January, whenever, any time of the year, but sometimes I'll do it a few days later and see if there's anything there as a sort of delay thing. Well, this is day 4 in January 23rd, and sure enough it's these same elements. January 23rd, January 23rd again. So this is sputum. So while I haven't coughed this immediately onto the slide, but rather this has quite likely grown over a 4-day period, nonetheless, it probably had a pretty good start. Yep, day 4. Here they are germinating. What's interesting, of course, you've got 2 points of germination. This one's pretty a classic there, up and down. So that makes sense. Now I've got this in the lab at the moment, and I'm hoping they will. They're doing a PCR DNA on it for me, and I'm hoping it will be identified. Now whether these are part of this problem, I don't know. They could be though, because I'll show you now in these images, I'm often coughing up these columns. Now, if these look like macrophages to you, then please tell me. Please send me an email. Yep, say, yep, number 312, Chris, yeah, they're definitely macrophages. I see them every day at work. That's fine, in the lab. However, if you think, no, we don't see macrophages like that in a column, then please email me and tell me that. Because what I have noticed, when I do see them like this column, almost joined together, and often slightly different shapes, and then what I've grown is this. This is April, so I'm still coughing it up, and it's obviously, at least very similar. I could imagine this is a degraded form of that. And looking at the particles in here, the elements, very fine, and in here, also, quite fine. And if these have degraded or compressed, so I can only go on what I see, but I realise in microbiology, everything's round, sort of thing. But I because I have to do this to save my life, then the advantage I've got over all the pathology lab. Well, this is KOH, by the way, which again I use it quite regularly because it's a simple tool I can use here. Don't have to be in a lab. And it works really well. I mean, it'll get rid of in blood. I use it to find it in blood. It's simple. But they won't do it. No. We've got to do the gold standard. What's that? Nothing. You've got normal flora. So here's another hypha, just straight out of a wet mount. That's October 19. So that's like, what's that, 2 years ago or something. I'm coughing it up then. I was sick then, and here I am there. More hypha, October 20. October 20 again, more hypha, October 20. Again, here's our green peas or spores, some sort, more hypha. Again though, even in these hypha, there's lots of reproduction going on. Again, KOH, sputum, there it is, hypha with spores in the hypha. KOH 10%. I mean, it's a simple, quick test to give you some guidance. But no, can't do that, no. Have to have someone professional tell us that. You're not professional, you're just Chris the gardener. So this is another aspect I see all the time, these sort of strange, almost bacterial clumping. I don't know what they are, bacterial, but they form, over time, as they age, I guess, they form this other structure here that at first I wasn't sure, are these coming from this? Has this broken down and released these which have then multiplied? Such as was this a parasite that's died and these are the eggs somehow reproducing by themselves, which doesn't seem likely. So, but more than likely, it seems to, a lot of the really close images I've taken on the scope, it seems to be growing out of these elements. They're certainly associated with this sort of grouping, but also this has normally filaments with it as well. You can just see some edges there, and I've got hundreds of photos of these, if not thousands, I imagine, by now. There you can see the filaments forming, the filaments is part of the structure, but then you can see here a darker line forming, and those darker lines end up forming this. Now, if that rings a bell to anybody, if that goes, that's Phytherella candeliana, absolutely. That's how they start growing in the forest. Then, okay, that's what I've got. That's neurotoxic. I mean, that's what they've found in sputum in me. But no, I can't treat you for that. You keep suffering. No worries, thank you. Again, here's a small grouping of it, and again, you can see the filaments clearly coming out from it, but that does seem to move into this. There's a smaller one there. Again, I mean, is this something different again? I'm open to any and all suggestions. Here, also, same type of thing there happening. It seems to be definitely emerging from the mass. The older the mass gets, it will form one of these. Now, is that just a calcification process, or some sort of coating process? I don't know. I'm just a gardener. Here's an early stage development of one for sure, I imagine. Here's another one, narrow here, coming up, getting wider, and sort of disappearing in it. But that may just be a structural calcification or something, I don't know. But any advice, if anyone can advise me on any of this, if anyone's seen all these things, says, oh yeah, I see them all the time, they're ABC, that's fine. Please email, just drop me an email. Now here we've got some real problems. This is sputum, fresh sputum, March 1820, wet mount. And this is what's going wrong, you see. They're gram staining. Now, they won't see this. If they gram stain it, they won't be there. Or not that it won't be there, but it'll be masked. The stain will affect it in such a way that they'll miss it. And that's what's happening. This biofilm is part of the problem. It's incredibly viscous, incredibly sticky. I had it on earlier, but I've got it back here on the slide in order to show you, to lead into the next ones that I've grown in broth. This is straight out of the lung onto the slide. And the tiny micro units there, very bacteria-like, seem to end up like these fruiting bodies. That's another fresh, straight out of the lung, wet mount. Straight out of the lung, that's all in the biofilms holding it together. Now here it is in brain heart infusion, March the 7th, 20, and again you've got this very, very fine film. These aren't stained at all. I don't use much stains. I'm not in a lab. I have a few. I use Indian meth blue and different things occasionally, iodine, different things to try to find things, but I'm in a lot of pain all the time, so it's enough for me to get this together and now to ask for someone else to give me a bit of a hand. So here are all the small elements, and you can see them just all through there. Here they are again. It speaks for itself, really. I mean, to say that these aren't the same elements, growing, you can see them here. They're tiny, tiny micro units, which inevitably seem to continue to increase in size. So. And that, of course, is a worry to me, because even I can see, well, okay, how do you get rid of every single one of those? But that's okay. I'll live in hope. And also I want to mention I have a lot of bovine colostrum. Ever since I started taking bovine colostrum, that's not it by the way, bovine colostrum, but that's the infection. I gather that's the infection. Again, here's another really good one of the early stage development, the biofilm, and it's just a net of micro elements. It's literally almost, in fact, I started to think that the biofilm itself is producing them straight out of the biofilm material that they excrete. But obviously, but they must be reproducing at a very, very small level, very small size, I imagine. And that again, of course, is a worry. Particularly since no one will help me. Now here's a change of pace for you all. Now I've seen this somewhere, and I can't remember where I've seen it. For some reason I've got aquatic thing on my mind, that it's some sort of aquatic organism, which I've been in a lot of stagnant dams in my time. So it's a possibility. Here's that's a 400, of course, and there's that's a 100. There's a 400, and what's interesting is I'm coughing. This goes out to a point, out to here, and I am coughing. I've coughed up segments of this at different times. Obviously worn. This is fairly fresh growing looking, but yeah. Now this, interestingly enough, I think. If you look at these coming up, how these two come up, how these must start. I'm not sure what these start from, whatever this thing is, but I can imagine this coming up, and this seems to have broken off here. So if this was a cone top here, then this, I imagine, would have kept growing. And I'm seeing a lot of shapes like this, with a midpoint here, right there, an opening, but they don't seem to have internal organs, and I haven't got, this is a rather good photo of one, but I'm wondering if this is a part of that, or if this is something else. I mean, is that an egg being laid out of here, reproduced? But there's very little sign of internal organs, so again, fungal is the possibility. This is November 10, 20, and up this came on one day. Coughing it up, and again this is just KOH 10%, and it hasn't gone, and neither have all the round things gone. Now KOH, if it doesn't get rid of these things, these can be a number of things, of course, but one of the things they can be is fungal, which is the simple KOH test. It at least gives you a guidance to think that, well, we better investigate this further. This could be fungal of some sort. So these things are part of that, and I don't know what it is. I've seen it, but I can't remember. And I'm sure it's aquatic, I think. But I shouldn't say that, I may be wrong. But oh, there we go, there's a camera there. Good. Okay, so again, here's an arm. That's from January 21. So that's November 20. And then 2 months later, I cough up what looks like an arm of one of those as well. Here's another one of these things, which is possibly off that, or it could be off something else, which I'll be showing you in a moment. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, well, okay, tapeworm, some sort of nematode, parasite. But funnily enough, and although it looks like it's got sort of like an opening of jaws here, but I've seen these, almost this exact image again and again. Not a lot of times, but a few times, so exactly the same. And I've coughed up a lot of things with this structure. Absolutely, this sort of middle canal and emptying or stopping here in a flatter end rather, but difficult to perceive internal organs like you would expect in a parasite, and never moving. And I've then found them on plates of fungi that I've cultured, so very similar, so I think it still could be fungi. And then when I first saw this, I thought, oh wow, look at all those worms there. Being a gardener, that's the only thing I could think of. Looking at them closely, I thought, oh, this is of course a crop of that. And I thought, well, here's the mouth here, here's the body, and maybe they've all died, sort of thing. But the interesting thing is, they're surrounded by the gold debris. I haven't got a lot of those images, but I've got hundreds of them, sort of thing, of different ones. But these are the same structures. Again, surrounded by the same gold debris that's coming out of the large tortoise sort of shells, cysts. Again, when I saw this, I thought, well, is that a worm? But again, I actually think it's fungal. Here's the opening, but you can see there's no indication of internal organs there. So this could be a connection point to another part of a structure. I'm not sure. Again, any opinions? 356, 357. Just email me, and just if any of these numbers you think you know what it is, just email. I'd be only too happy to receive your help or advice or opinion. Here are some other structures that I often find. They're, again, very nematode-like, but I never see them moving. So, again, I'm moving these, possibly that these may in fact be, again, some sort of fungal structure. So this is typical of what I see a lot of these coming up. They may have this sort of point, or may not. They might be blunt end or rounded end. I know you can get artifacts, of course, in microscopy work, but I get too many of these. I've grown similar things in fungi, and yep. Now here's a few odd things to finish up with nearly. I've got a number of these. I've coughed these up over the past 3 years. It looks fungal to me. Yep, and I've seen these. They could be part of the larger structure. I have got some images where these are joined together, and they're forming a much larger mat conglomerate. And again, they're very flat, and I can imagine that's stuck on the bronchioles, and I'm trying to cough that up and get that off like a bit of lichen. That's what the first thing I thought of when I saw it. I thought, that looks like lichen to me. So, but of course, microbiologists, you might have a better idea. But is that parasitic? Is it fungal? Is it actinomycetes? I mean, no one's helping me. So that's why you're seeing this video. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, that's a concertinaed parasite. It's coiled up. It's a coiled parasite. But once again, with fungi still on really in the focus, it may just be one of those discs that's grown really old. Again, I don't know. But again, if that rings a bell with anybody, let me know. When I saw this, I thought, well, that curly tail has got to be, that's a worm, surely. But never any movement. Never any movement. So these odd shapes are different. Not sure what these are. Any opinions will be good, helpful. And now here at 400, you've just got this huge sort of vacuole cell, giant cell. Now I don't know what this giant cell is, and again, any help would be most grateful. I have seen very large sporangia on some of the Rhizopus cultures I've grown. They're quite large. They'd probably be 2/3 of that. And I'm just wondering if this also may be in fact a sporangia from fungi, possibly a Rhizopus or mucor, because I've seen them when I've cultured them. And also these folds to me seem to be a bit of a giveaway that it could be the head of sporangia. Same with this one, possibly. Now this one's interesting. And brain heart infusion broth. So yeah, December 20. But again, you've got these pointed ends going in to probably a flat end in there. And here's that little segment again. But anyone who thinks they know what that might be, or is that in fact another phase of the earlier ones that I showed you? No idea what this is. Any advice would be most welcome. Maybe debris from something I ate or something, but however, it's surrounded by the gold discs. Speaking of discs, there's one there, and that's KOH again, 10% KOH, simple test, sputum, don't know why everyone doesn't do it. That's at least a guidance anyway, can reveal things. Another type of cyst, which is, again, this could be parasite or fungal, I guess. I mean, with that sort of opening, of course, as microbiologists, you would know more than I would. It's classic cyst-looking type opening as opposed to a pollen grain or something, but it may be something in that way. I don't know if these are eggs or spore capsules, I'm not sure. Also, it could be just if the sporangia heads of Rhizopus or something like that just break apart, and then these could be capsules from within those. Another typical disc. The rim of what was something and is undoubtedly some cyst or disc. Again, here's this classic image. Earlier I had one that was very smooth in the images. Smooth green, same sort of spout, and sure enough, small green. green peas were coming out of spores. And here, of course, are the spores coming out of this, absolutely. And now I know a spore is a spore is a spore, although, of course, many can be quite easily identified. Aspergillus niger and various things can stand out for various reasons. But this thing is, look, it can be just about anything, but a microbiologist would know more than I would. Right, okay then. This is just a few shots of just some of the looser elements. Again, I don't know if these are the ones that are growing into the green circles, but this mass of elements seem different to me than the green peas, or the spores, the green spores. These always look a little more square shaped, and they clump differently, but I see them quite often as well. And I'm not sure if they're progressing into something. I'm not certain. Oh, that's my doctor's note there. So that's about that. So that's the story. 64-year-old in Melbourne. Specialists are refusing to investigate it. They want more evidence. I give them the evidence, and they say, "Oh, you must be contaminating the plate." I don't even know where I'd get that contaminant from. So if anybody can assist me in any way at all, I'd be most appreciative. Refer this on, or this link on, to anybody, particularly in Melbourne, Australia, or in Australia in particular, but around the world as well. And any help would be just really appreciated. So anyway, this is the first talkover video I've done. I put on an earlier one, but I was just scrolling. I was in a lot of pain, and anyway, I rigged up this for a sort of a PowerPoint presentation more. So I've tried a lot of oral antifungals. Voriconazole was the closest to coming to helping. Antiparasitics was mebendazole. I have masses of natural antifungals from Horopedo, golden seals, undeosinoic acid, propolis even seems to help a bit. Essential oils, just you name it, I've had it probably, if it's out there in the natural antifungal world. But unfortunately I haven't been able to shift it. I'm very ill. Nearly died a couple of years ago when I went into a Riger's attack, and it took 4 hours to get out of it, and took a mouthful of itraconazole, and I came out of it after 4 hours, but I nearly went then. And it's just every day is the same, in massive pain, always worse in the morning, much worse, in agony. By 7 o'clock in the morning, can't stay in bed, it's impossible. Have to get up and start loosening it and coughing it up, and I have to treat myself all day now, and that's pretty much what I do. So anyway, I hope and pray that you're all well out there in COVID land. The world, of course, is in difficult times for all of us. I'm only one small person with a small problem, just for concerning myself. But if this is an unknown pathogen, then it is of some importance. And if it does link in with Melinda SARS cluster in America, well, again, that's important. And if this is contagious, well, no one's helping me. So how do I know if I haven't even spread this to someone else? Because no one's looking into it here in Melbourne. So it's really I'm really disappointed, to use a very polite word. I didn't work like these people, and yet they think they can. And there is a problem in the medical profession here in Melbourne. There is what you might call a bit of ivory tower syndrome going on. Unfortunately, we're all... I like to think we're all God's children, but and we should treat each other that way. We should love one another and care for one another, and not use other people as a footstool to climb up your ivory tower. But that's how I've been treated recently, and I'm a bit sick of it. So I'm asking for help from somebody who's genuinely interested, and who takes this seriously, and also takes my evidence seriously. My GP will back me up. There's a letter at the end of the video there that you saw. You can pause on that. And he can be contacted here in Melbourne. So that's about it. I wish you all well, and I pray soon the world will get back onto a more even keel and healthy keel. God bless you all. Bye.